Sid, Tess, I have when I first met you guys, it took just a split second to recognize, okay, these are real disciples of Jesus. And just hearing about their daily grind. And what do I mean by that? Well, I want to read Mark 8, what Jesus said after Peter tells him, you can't die. He says, you're seeing things only from a human point of view. And then Jesus says, calling the crowd, he says, if any of you, anybody, wants to be my disciple, be my follower, you must take up your cross, give up your own way, follow me. And if you try to hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake and the kingdom, that you will find life. And in talking to you guys, I just get such a beautiful encouragement and inspiration, again, that people all over this city are doing that. They are literally letting go of their lives and receiving the life of Christ, surrendering to that call to home life, free time, your creative gifts, your entrepreneurial gifts, everything about you just wrapped up in this beautiful, let it go and receive his life instead. So for many of these people don't know you, can you just tell us a little bit about yourselves, about your home life, about your work life, about your faith life?
Tess is giving me eyes that say you go first. Okay. Well, hey guys, I'm Sid, Tess. We've been at Ramp for nearly a year. Woo. And and we love it actually. And it's a big space, isn't it? There's a lot of people, so we still don't know most of you. No offense, that wasn't, we've not been avoiding anyone. But we are super excited about getting to know you all a bit more. Do you want me to give a quick? Yeah. Okay. So I grew up in Rwanda. Is anyone from Rwanda here? No, nobody. Okay, just me.
The only Rwandan.
I know. So I grew up in Rwanda. My parents were missionaries out there. They translated the Bible into Kinyarwanda. And are you from Rwanda? No. You? Ish. Same here.
So we have two cool. Rwanda-ish.
We could start the Token Rwandans Club afterwards. See me soon. Good. Yes. No. You're going to Rwanda. Fantastic. Hey. Okay. I feel like this is becoming a broader Rwanda-based discussion now. Anyone else got any Rwanda-related? As loose as you want. Okay. Anyone seen it on a map? Okay.
I think I've seen Rwanda in an Olympics before.
Okay.
Does that count?
Draw this section to a close.
All right.
Grew up. Yes. Anyway, whatever. I grew up in Rwanda. When we were there, though, we lived through the genocide, and so we became homeless. And my parents did some quite brave things. My mum and dad took in Tutsis and hid them in our house, which meant that if we got found, we would have been killed for that. And we spent weeks hiding in the middle corridor of the house because it was the safest place for bullets flying around and things. But my dad also used to just go out on the streets. There were people lining people up to execute them, and he'd go out armed with nothing but his Bible, and he would open up the 10 Commandments, and he'd remind them of the "Thou shalt not kill" commandment, and saved quite a few people's lives in the process. It was risky. And I think, so I grew up with an experience of quite extreme hospitality, I would say.
Don't worry, no executions at our community groups that are starting next week, guys.
And my story is a lot more relatable.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we came back to the UK, we lived with different family members for a bit. And ended up down south in a place called Woking. My parents pastored quite a big church there. And if I'm honest with you, their faith was like secondhand for me. It was like, yeah, I'm a Christian because I go to church. Mum and dad, it's their thing. And so, I don't know, maybe the penny's going to drop for someone today, but I sort of learnt when I was 12 that God has no grandkids. Does that make sense? And I heard the gospel that many times, but it took hearing it from somebody new, because sometimes you have to hear it from someone who's not familiar, right? Yeah, and I remember being like, oh, wait, hang on, you want a friendship with me? And it was life-changing. I was 12 years old. It's still the most powerful moment in my life, and I've not looked back. And obviously, now I'm 18, so it's quite a few years ago.
So grateful for your
Thou shalt
impact
not
in the
kill is
student
one of the-
community,
yeah.
Sid.
Thank you. It's all about being relevant. Tess, you should probably interject at this point.
So I grew up in a Christian home. My mum is just the most beautiful, servant-hearted woman. But I grew up with my mum and stepdad, so I always felt different, just really different at home. And I think that gave me just a heart for people to feel at home, if that makes sense. So yeah, that was me. Went to uni and had a complete blowout, just absolute blowout, and got really quite heavily involved in the clubbing scene, really enjoyed waking up on a Friday morning and not going to bed until a Sunday night. But I remember one time, and I knew that Jesus never left me, even though I'd been taught it growing up, I just was walking away from it. But I remember one time I was, ironically, in a club called God's Kitchen in Birmingham. And I remember everything, all of a sudden, the music, everything just stopped. And there was a clearing of the lasers, of the smoke, and I just heard the audible voice of God say, "Tess, what are you doing?" And I just went, "Nothing, shh." And I carried on, but I just know he never left me at all. He kept me safe through so many situations, so yeah, that's my walk.
So Tess, what then brought you back into this relationship with the Lord?
I think just serious heart surgery. Me and God did some real serious heart surgery. I was in and out of relationships. My identity was just, I did not know my identity was with God. So I think it was that. I think learning that I was his daughter and that I was here for a reason, that I was loved eternally. And it just, me and him just needed to do a good few years of heart surgery. Actual heart surgery.
So something that is really impacting to me about both of your lives is all the things that you're involved in now outside of your home, but then you still choose to bring so many things into your home as well. Would you just give all of us just some highlights about what do you do and a bit about your life over the past decade or so?
Okay, so I don't know, was anyone here 2 weeks ago when Ian Henderson was speaking? Yeah. Not many of you, though. 4 people. So Ian and Jen were my team leaders on something called Eden. So there was this idea where you go and live in a deprived community. Growing up, I had a plan to be a graphic designer and to make some money and to maybe see the world. It was a really small plan looking back. And like God's like, I see your plan and it's terrible. So let me get you a better one.
And I'm really glad God changed it.
No offense to graphic
Really
designers,
glad.
by the way. That's not. It just wasn't what I was meant to be doing. God knocked me over in a church service, and I saw 3 pictures in front of me.
That was rude.
Yeah, he's continued to be quite
Rude.
inconvenient. So I saw a picture of young people on a council estate. Then I saw a picture of a homeless guy on the street, and then I saw a woman in prostitution. And my heart broke, and I was crying out and feeling something for these people. And I remember thinking in my head, God, I don't know these people. They might not even be real people. What is going on? And he had to spell it out to me like, this is my heart for these people, Sid, which you don't currently have, by the way. So I thought, okay. So I left that meeting and found a flyer in the mud for the Message Trust, and for a year out there doing. It's not a good way to plan your life, by the way. If you go looking for flyers in the mud, you'll probably end up buying double glazing or something. But anyway, I was like, God, what do I do with this? And I did end up just going, stuff it. I'm gonna do this course. So I did this course, and I moved to Manchester, and ended up on this Eden team in Harper Hay, which was the most deprived ward in England and Wales at the time. Thankfully, it's improved a bit since then. But it was a place full of beautiful people, but a culture which was far from godly. There was some really dark stuff going on. And it wasn't an easy place to live. So we moved in, and I had a few different housemates. And what we did was we did a lot of youth work, like kicking balls around and doing youth clubs and stuff. But inevitably, this stuff grew arms and legs because you really cared about the kids you met. And you thought, why is this child going through this? And then you meet mum and you're like, okay, I get it. And so my housemate Keith and I, we ended up having a bang on the door from the police saying, we know you guys are good people. Can you take in this young lad to live with you? We're like, it's just one night. We've checked with his mum and social services. One night became a year. He used to hoard knives and scissors under his pillow. It was weird. And so it became more than just youth work. We had, then I had a housemate called Sam. Sam was great, but he had a bad habit of, he worked as a receptionist in the GP practice, and he had this bad habit of every time he met a homeless guy, he'd be like, just come and live with us. And he wouldn't call me, he'd just send a text and hope that I got it. I'd be out at work and I'd be like, oh, what's this? Oh, Steve's going to come live with us. When is Steve going to come live with us, Sam? He's here now. Cool. So that happened a few times. Some guys robbed us blind. But we didn't have much stuff, so it didn't matter. People are worth more than things. And so we did a lot of that, not at the same time as fostering, obviously. And we used to do family dinner once a week as well, which was where we had some of the guys next door were kind of working through heroin addiction. And then we had also single parents that could do with some friendship, and teenagers off the estate. People would knock on for us day and night. And they'd just come around and we'd eat together and sometimes have a food fight. And it was just great fun, doing life with people. And from the outside, it looks like, oh, you're doing these people a favor. From my perspective, I was like, oh, this is such a rich life, like such a rich experience to journey with these people and to mourn with them when people die and to walk through pain with people and to have a laugh, So I loved that, absolutely loved that. And that kind of fed more into, I guess, my theology of doing life together. Tess, do you want to, tell us some other things?
Yeah, you asked about home life. The answer is it's absolutely chaotic. We have 3 small children, 9, 7, and 1, 2 of which we've adopted. And they're just everything in all the extras, just everything. Getting ready every morning is like some army situation. And
it's like the opening scenes of Saving Private Ryan. If you've seen that, that's our morning.
But we wouldn't change it. We wouldn't change it for the world. We love having people over for food. We often say to people, our door is open, and nobody takes us up on it. I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but genuinely, our door is open. So that's home life. Yeah, if you don't mind being a pescatarian for the night.
Do you want to talk about Edgeley and those days?
Yeah, so we lived in Stockport, and this was when we first got married, and we had some friends there who I think probably just taught us so much. They're amazing. They've got 5 kids now. They moved away to South Wales, which just broke our hearts. But when we were there, we organically just grew this community vibe. We had keys to each other's houses. We knew what was in each other's fridges. If we were shopping, we'd just replenish each other's cupboards. I'd let myself in the house without even inviting myself around for dinner. I'd just go start cooking. That was life for us. And we just learnt so much off them. They would have people live with them. They would never charge them. They would say, pay it forward, so you do it for someone else in the future. And, if we ever asked, I don't know, if they did us a favour or whatever, they'd just say, pay us in friendship. And that was genuinely the life that we lived for years, wasn't it? And we just loved it. It was so rich. You never knew who was going to be around for dinner, but you didn't care. And the table
was always a lot of people,
was always full, and there was so many children screaming and tantruming. And we all just pitched in. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And when they moved away and we moved to where we live now, we just decided that we wanted to intentionally try and recreate that. That's what we've done.
Yeah, and I think we learnt a lot from them. They lived by faith completely, and yet they only bought the most fancy, expensive food. I was like,
Terrible
Alex, this
budgeting.
is, you're going to sink your small budget immediately. He's like, no, I'm a son of the king, and he wants me to have good stuff. And I was like,
He's right.
okay. And honestly, and he lived, and they just, they used to blow all kinds of money on people. Like, I remember one Christmas when they moved to this new town in Wales, they literally put on a Christmas party for the town and bought, I can't remember how many thousands of mince pies and mulled wine, and they just did it, and on no budget. And it was like, well, we're just here to give. God will give back to me if I give. That was their theology, and it always proved to be true, you know. Now employs like 20 people. It's like, so I guess when you have the privilege of living around people like that, you kind of learn some of those life skills almost. Like, you're like, yeah, life. You can live in a generous way when you don't have much, you know. And I guess, you know, shall I mention what we do now?
Yeah, please do. I mean, not if it's going to convict me more, because I'm about conviction max. Anybody else?
Sorry.
I need to hear something at some point that makes me feel a bit normal. But
Tell us
I
about
would
your work
love
life.
to hear what you guys are doing now.
And before you go, though, I just want to highlight this beautiful, this thread of congruence, right? This giving of our life. So hitting finances, hitting home, hitting free time, and now hitting career path.
Sure. Okay. So you might remember the first picture was about young people. And so Tess and I did a lot of youth work, did about 14 years full time of youth work and mission, and worked out that we'd reached tens of thousands of young people over 14 years with the gospel, which was great. But we also had the other pictures to think about. So after 14 years of doing youth work, I'd been working with a message in the latter part of that, and we developed this fleet of double-decker buses that they had.
And then met
Tess, who also worked with the message.
You missed that bit out.
That
It's quite
was
important,
obviously the
that one.
highlight, yeah. And we
Awkward.
well, it is now. Okay. Cool. And I remember Alex, my friend, he was in this rock band at the time. They were touring around Europe as well, sharing the gospel. And he said, Sid, you know all about buses. I was like, yeah. Not in a sort of train spotter kind of jacket kind of way, but like just had to for my job. And he said, you know all about buses, and you know that you care about the homeless, because I'd been volunteering with the homeless since I was 19, you know. And I was like, yeah, done a bit of sleeping on the street with homeless guys to try and understand and empathize and stuff.
As you do.
And,
As you do. Yeah.
And he just said to me, when we go on tour, he said, do you realize a tour bus is just a homeless shelter on wheels? And it was like, bing, light bulb moment. I was like, oh, we could do that, you know? So we left our jobs and went to my auntie and uncle in London and said, could we have a bit of money to buy a bus? And we ended up buying a bus from a guy who conned us out of 18 grand. So it was painful, and we'd left our jobs as well. And I was like, oh no, now we had 7 grand left, and we were both not working anymore. And I was like, what do I do? I remember sitting in the Chinese bakery in Chinatown, which is a good place, by the way, and going, God, what do I do now? And I went to see Andy Burnham, Mayor of Manchester, managed to get like
Again,
40,
as you do.
45 seconds with him. And I said, I've got this vision to get a luxury tour bus and put homeless guys on it. And he went, I love that vision. Let me give you a number of a guy to talk to. I was like, brilliant, I've been fobbed off. I'm going to have to talk to some low-runging person that, yeah, exactly. Anyway, I should have Googled this guy, Tim, because he turned up to the cafe in a very flash car. And I was like, yeah, you don't work for GMCA, do you? Tim actually ran a really successful property developing company. He sat there and he later said to me that he only came because Andy Burnham had asked him to, and he thought it was a terrible idea. So this was like where we were up to in life. And anyway, thankfully, God did something in the meeting, because by the end of it, he wrote me a check and went, there you go, boom, buy yourself a good bus. So I went out and found what had been Coldplay's tour bus, right? And Tiny Temper had it as well. And not because we're really bothered about Chris Martin sleeping on it. Although one time it broke down just by the pyramid, you know, the Stockport Pyramid, Junction 1. and we partly blocked the on-ramp onto the motorway. And I was like, no, this is such an embarrassing place to break down. And then Highways England turned up, and they put road cones all around us, made it look worse than it was, right? And then the guy came on and said, hello, mate, you okay? I was like, I'm really sorry, I've caused a scene. And he went, don't be daft. I attend to things like this all day, every day. You haven't caused a scene, it's just a thing that happens. And he gets on his radio and he went, yeah, I'm at the scene. Really encouraging. And then he gets on his radio and he goes, is Sarah there? Like, yeah. Sarah, you want to get down here? All right, gave her the address. And I'm like, who's Sarah? A police officer turns up. Sarah gets out of her car. She goes, what is it, guys? He went, this was Coldplay's tour bus. And she goes, no. And he goes, yeah. And I know you're a big Coldplay fan. I'm like, what is this? What is going on? This is taxpayers' money right now. Anyway, she'd come from elsewhere. I don't know if she had the blue lights on or not, but she got there.
Oh, we all know she did.
And she went upstairs to try out the different beds just so she could say she'd been, crazy. Anyway.
Tax money at work, guys.
So we bought this tour bus, and it was nice. It was all memory foam mattresses, 12 beds. It had a surround sound cinema upstairs, a deeply inappropriate champagne fridge, and then it had like a kitchen and a lounge and all sorts. And after buying that, we had almost no money left. At which point we were like, well, we need to employ people. So we employed 4 people full time. Which didn't make any. It's not a plan you could take to Barclays, you know. And we just started sleeping homeless guys in it. We had something like 60 volunteers every month, people from different churches all over the city. And 111 homeless guys came through that. Guys got saved. We had a guy who came in on heroin, hadn't slept for 5 days. My colleague Leighton just said, let's do a short Bible study. He's like, I can't concentrate on anything. And he said, it'll be the shortest Bible study ever. Opens it, read one verse about Jesus healing, shut the Bible and went, right, that's it. And he went, what, is that the end of the Bible study? He went, yeah, should we try it? He went, go on then. Prayed for him. All his symptoms went. It was just awesome. Man. It was just like, so we started with the tour bus. We went on like a world tour of Salford. It was really glamorous. And got punched a few times. Some human traffickers turned up one night. It was a bit messy. And then, but we saw people's lives changing, and then COVID happened, and all shelters in England and Wales had to close. So that was great. I think the council phoned us with 3 days' notice. We're like, thank you. And we just didn't have the heart to put these guys on the street. So we started leasing properties off private landlords. Didn't have the budget for it. I remember getting an email to our website, you know, like the info at, and this businessman said, I found you on Google. And he said, I don't know why, but I have to give you a very specific, weird amount of money. And it was exactly what we needed for the rents, you know. So we God's good. And so it kind of went on like that, really. And I think, you know, if you're willing to take some risks with God, He will meet you in it, you know, and more than you could imagine as well. Because we could imagine a bus, and we were like, that seems like a big vision, and it was hard graft, I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of sleepless nights. But because of the whole COVID thing, we ended up then leasing some properties for women and employing an all-women staff team, some properties for men. And then at the moment, we're about 2 weeks off finishing an entire new build apartment block for homeless women. And in December, we get the keys to an entire village in Castlefield. We're building 40 homes, plus staff accommodation, plus sports pitch, gardens, boxing gym. We're going to do a joinery workshop, all sorts, and like a village hall, for want of a better name, where we're going to do everything we do now. And we teach people to shop, to cook, to budget. We do alpha. We explore faith with people. And there's
I think that's worth giving God praise over. Come on.
We don't want to. Tess was saying before that we're not here to. We don't want to impress you, but we want to impress upon you that you can do anything with Jesus. There is an adventure to be had for each of you. I'm convinced of that. Utterly certain of that, because Tess's story is one of you kind of receiving God's grace, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas mine, by contrast, was one of, I think I almost had a slightly religious thing going on. I was the pastor's kid, and I'd been done all these things, and
He was the good boy.
I was desperate to get it all right. So there was almost like an overplayed thing where I was like, I need to get everything right for God. Don't want to miss a trick. And actually, tragically, that made me really anxious. So like some weird things happened. I remember like being on Virgin trains in the toilets trying not to vomit because I knew that somebody had to tell the carriage about Jesus. And then I'd get up and I'd preach, and God would do some cool things. But I would also have this it was like a horrible burden. Like, oh my gosh, if I don't find the guts to do it today, what if they don't get to heaven? It like was on, and it was actually not from God. Like, God was like, I want you to do this out of love, not out of like, I ought to do it, you know? Does that make sense? And so when we came to get married, I was looking at our like relationships. Like, I was in hardly any relationships because I was so worried about getting it wrong. And I wasn't willing to go through any door, you know. And so should we talk about how we got together? Because I think that'd be helpful for...
Sure.
Is that all right?
Are you guys loving this? I'm
So
just,
how'd you
hanging
guys
on
get
every
together?
word.
Tell us about that.
That was a good intro, babe.
Sorry, you've done so much talking.
I know,
don't
I'm sorry.
want to start now.
I do that.
It's
an
fine.
ugly habit.
No,
So
it's
you
fine.
go.
Well, let me ask you
Talk
this,
about-
Tess. Yeah. Did you imagine, you know, as a young woman, and you thinking about your future husband, that you would marry somebody in the ministry who would be going so full out and serving the poor and sacrificing so much, you know, of everything for Jesus? Is that the life you imagined, or how did you get to that point and know that Sid was a safe bet?
He wasn't a safe bet. He's never been a safe bet. Jesus is the safe bet, yeah. I think there's nothing safe about this man. I think when you look at us two, I'm the most risk-averse person, and Sid is wild. So God just knew, and I think when I came back to the Lord, I genuinely just felt like no one would want me. Honestly, my identity was just rock bottom. And then we did this, like I said, heart surgery. And genuinely, we were just friends, weren't we? We were really good friends. And we ended up going on holiday. He invited, his parents lived in France because they ran a church in Cannes in the south of France. And he invited a big group of people there. And he actually happened to like my housemate, and his housemate liked me. And then everybody else cancelled, so it became this double date from hell. And I was like, oh no, what are we going to do? Anyway, so we ended up going on this holiday together. And because I was trying to not give his housemate the wrong impression, I just spoke to Sid the whole time, and we just got on really, really well. But unfortunately, after a couple of days, Sid got anxious. And then you can tell that the next bit, because this is your kind of... I don't want to do many.
That's a great setup. I can't wait to see where this goes.
Go on. No, it's good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Embarrass
because of
yourself,
the Lord.
Sunshine.
Because of the Lord.
Okay, so I was like, Tess is fun, right? So I was like, Tess is my friend. Is this a holiday romance thing? We're going to regret this 5 minutes after landing back in Manchester when the sunshine's gone. And so we'd done all of like holding hands pretty much. And I was like, no, I need to retreat from this. And so I remember sitting on a wall. Don't do this, guys, please. Don't learn from me at this point. And I remember sitting on a wall about the height of the stage here, and Tess was sat about 4 meters away
It's a
from
bit of
me.
an exaggeration, but I wasn't right next to him.
It was. There was a certain air of... Yeah, and I was apologizing for my change of plan. And then Tess was giving me what I think can only be described as a lecture on how to treat women better.
Quite right.
It was
Quite
good.
right.
We'll get Tess to do that just one Sunday morning. We'll let the men know when that is. And,
Look forward to it.
Yeah. So she was sort of telling me, and I was studying, there's some cracks actually in the pavement and some ants that were quite interesting, and I was just studying them in great detail. I've never found ants so interesting between my flip-flops. So, but the upshot of that is that I was very familiar with that square foot. And I think it's a French man came and put a gold wedding ring between my feet. And I speak French because I grew up in the French system in Rwanda. And he said to me, "Is this yours?" And I said, "No," because that's the truth, right? And he said, "I'm going to ask you again," because it obviously wasn't sinking in very. He went, "Is this yours?" And I went, "Honestly, I don't own any rings."
And I was getting really cross
Tess
because
is
this
going, "What's he
man
saying?
was
What's he
interrupting my lecture, and I don't speak French.
She was
So
in
I
a
was going,
flow
"What's he
as well.
saying? I'm not finished."
It was a good lecture. It had some really strong points in it. And then I remember just saying to him, "I'm sorry, it's not mine." He asked me 4 times. 4 times. And on the 4th time, I was a bit stumped. I was like, "Are you stupid? Like, why don't you understand what I'm saying to you? I'm saying it in French." I think I told him to take it to French lost property, whatever that is. But it was annoying me at this point.
French angels don't know where that is. Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
he said, "So you're sure you don't want this?" And I was a bit stumped. I was like, I looked at Tess, looked back, and he was gone. So it was a bit weird. And we were not sat like right next to a corner that he could have nipped around. We were like, "Where is he?" We didn't know where he went. So we're still not sure to this day quite what happened. And I'm sure all angels speak English, right? That's surely the language you have.
Of course.
So
The
I
King
have my
James
doubts.
Bible have... Yeah.
Amen. So, so I don't know. Anyway, that got me thinking, as it would do. And then that weekend, me and my brother were off to sort of help run a youth church thing for my dad in France. So weirdly left Tess and my other brother and Emily to hang out.
Did
for
you keep the
weekend.
ring?
No, I should have done, right? Might have been worth something. I wouldn't have had to buy a wedding ring. Job done. Where do you get your
steal
wedding
from an
from?
angel.
Was it 8 Samuels? Nope. An angel gave it me. Beat that. So, stupidly, so I got this one off Amazon or something. Anyway, so we went away. That weekend I struggled to sleep and I was like, "Jesus, please give me peace," because I was still struggling, you know. And I really felt like his presence came into the room. My brother was there snoring. It was fine. And I just had this peace about the relationship. I talked to my parents about it, which is not like me. And anyway, I came back, said, "Tess, can I take you for a drink?" And she went, "Sure, give me 5 minutes." Yeah, go on, you tell us.
So for the weekend, my friend and I was just fuming, absolutely fuming, that I'd been messed about again, and it just really cut me deep. So me and my friend just had a weekend of chatting it through, and she really felt the Lord tell her that Sid was right for me, and I was like, "No way, absolutely no way, not happening." And she persuaded me over the weekend that I had to give him another chance. So I set these 4 very specific things. And one of them was that God really had to have spoken to him about me because I just didn't want to be messed about again. Sid gets back from this weekend away. There's a little feeble knock on the door. I was terrible. I'd spent the afternoon making...
Tess, you home, Tess? She's not
This
there.
is why he had to tell the story. Anyway, I'd spent the whole weekend making his parents a meal. I'd put my best dress on, and I opened the door like, "Yes."
This is so bad.
I know. And he said, "Can I take you for a drink?" And I was like, "Give me 5 minutes." So anyway, I came back 5 minutes later, took me for a drink, and he basically...
No, wait, hang on. Tess put on like this incredible maxi dress and did all her hair and everything. And there I am, still sweaty in my shorts, having done youth work all weekend. It's like,
Did you have a
had
Fanta
5
shirt on?
minutes for a shower.
Did you have a Fanta shirt that day, too?
Hey.
no, I was less well dressed up.
Oh, dear. So we went for a drink, and I ordered the most expensive thing on the menu.
Literally cleared me out of all my euros.
So bad. And he proceeded to say exactly the 4 things in order of what I'd set as my standard of whether I would take him back or not. And so I was so stumped. The last one was, can I take you out on a date when we returned to Manchester? And I was so shocked, I just didn't say anything. And I was doing this under the table.
I was sure it was a no.
And he went, oh, no then. And I just went, okay. And that began our relationship. But
Moral of the story, gents, you don't have to have fashion. You just have to be able to hear from the Lord.
That's right. That's the take home. So we went back to Manchester, had a first date. Weirdly, I was dropping Tess off at Piccadilly train station for her to go home before I went home. And in the train station, met a lad called Adam. Now, Adam, I knew him from youth work in Harper Hay. And I said, what are you doing here, Adam? And he said, I've just become homeless today, and I'm going to sleep in the train station. I was like, no, you're not, mate. You're coming home with me. So our first date, we met Adam, came home with me. He gave his life to Christ, started speaking in tongues. It was the most amazing experience. And then, so God was like, I'm going to bless you, and it's going to overspill into other people. And then we were praying together for some friends, and I saw a picture of a swan. And being a man, I said nothing, right? And then Tess goes, whoa, I've just seen a swan. And I was like, oh, that's really weird now. So I was like, yeah, I saw a swan too. And then obviously, I don't know why it fell to me to know what it meant. Tess goes, what does it mean?
because you were that anxious one, babe.
Yeah,
God
okay.
knew.
So then I was like, I honestly opened my mouth to say I don't know. And the answer, it felt like it came from the outside. It's like swans belong to royalty. They stay together for life, and they're protected. And even that week, we'd been dealing at work with some very weird spiritual stuff, some dealings with, I don't want to go into it, but there was like spiritual abuse stuff that we were dealing with. There was quite a lot of that we had to tackle, quite blatant stuff. So I felt like this dark shadow had followed me around all week, giving me a hard time. And the fact that it said, you're protected was super helpful. And then the next day, I had some boring fundraising training, but it was in the Swan buildings on Swan Street, right, in North Manchester. Being disorganised, I only found out on the day. And I walked through, and there was these 2 swans engraved on the windows. I was like...
And I was about to go and meet my mum. I was just meeting my mum for lunch. And we just got the address, and it was in Swan Square. So basically, for the next 3 weeks, these weird swan-related incidents happened. It was crazy.
It was crazy.
Continuously.
And so the Lord gave you peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I was meeting with a different Adam who hadn't given his life to Christ. But annoyingly, I told him about Jesus many, many times. And I said to him, Adam, let's just pretend you'd said yes, because I've wasted years trying to get you to say yes. Why don't we meet in McDonald's and do discipleship, which is what would happen next? He went, all right. So we met in McDonald's and did discipleship with this guy who hadn't given his life to Christ yet. And it was quite good, and he got free McDonald's out of it, so that worked for him. And one day he said to me, sometimes you talk about God, and I'm like, yeah, this is real. And other times I'm like, nah. So I was like, oh, that's encouraging, Adam, thank you. And he said, you tell me a story of God speaking, and you can't pick something from years ago. So I told him the current story we were in, and I even told him that we were going to set up a painting and decorating company called Little White Swan. Anyway, his face changed colour. He looked very grey, put down his milkshake and went, I've got to go, like that. I was like, this kid was really confident and enthusiastic. What's going on with him? Anyway, a week goes by of him ignoring me. Then Tess and I took a whole minibus load of teenagers away for the weekend to do some exploring God stuff in Wales. And to get from Manchester to North Wales doesn't take long, but when you've got teenagers, they still need a wee break in an hour journey. So we stopped at the service station. On the M60, 2 swans had flown low over the windscreen of Tess's car. And Adam went, okay, I believe in God now. We got to the service station, and Tess was like, Adam's got something to tell you, Sid. And he's like, I'm going to give my life to Jesus. And I was like, how come? And he said, well, the night before I told you that God had never spoken to me, I had a vivid dream in which you and Tess saw swans, and you started a painting and decorating company called Little White Swan. He had the name of the company, right? So there he is, shocked. So I said, why didn't you say anything? He was like, I freaked out, man. So,
Isn't that incredible?
it is incredible.
And I think, just in wrapping all this up, even that story, for those of you who are kind of like, okay, what is God saying to me through this? I think it's this beautiful testimony of what Romans 8 says. All who are led by the Spirit of God are the children of God. And you seeing how the Spirit of God has brought them together and led them in these different career choices. And these things are not, the Holy Spirit works in us with desires, and then he confirms, right? But the flesh is also at work against those spirits. And there's mindsets that you have to overcome, that you have to fight against. And just in closing, as people are kind of assessing this for their own life, this giving their own life to Jesus fully, inviting him into their free time, inviting them into their home space, inviting them into their relationships. What is one mindset that you can just say, hey, you're going to have to take that out with the Spirit and the Word of God, or it will rob the fullness of what God has for you? Is there like a narrative that you had to just combat with the Word and the Spirit so you could walk in the fullness?
I think hopefully you've grasped that I'm a muppet, but God used me anyway, right? Otherwise this isn't encouraging, is it? So I think what I learned, I suppose, the hard way was that I had quite a lot of fear and anxiety. Some of that I think maybe was from my childhood experiences, but some of it was just from being a bit of a perfectionist as well, which you just can't be when life gets messy. But I realized that to follow God, every good film, right, every good adventure film isn't about people not quite making decisions and being a bit unsure and keeping it vague. That's like, no one wants to watch that. But we all, for some reason, are like, but that's what I want. I want to watch other people do radical things while I keep it comfortable. And I was just like, yeah, God doesn't want that for you either. And so we often pray, God, open a door. Almost as though, like, the further I get in God, the more doors will open to me. And I want to tell you today, guys, that doesn't seem to be the case. I found that, especially for those of you who are single, especially guys, I think, to be fair, there's a lot of doors, isn't there? There's a lot of potential relationships, potential opportunities for what career should I do, potential, do I do ministry, do I do this, that? Oh my gosh, like we're killed with opportunities, you know? And I want to tell you that once you open a door, you're saying, I'm closing all the others. And you already know that, because that's probably what makes you feel like knots in your stomach about making a choice. But when you do, you discover that there are less doors, but you still have to make the next choice. And then there's less and less and less, until your life becomes really specific. And that means that's to the denial of 1,000 other stories. But the good news is your life isn't random. There is a God who made you on purpose for a purpose, and he has a specific plan for you. And yours won't look like mine, thank God. Yours will be different, okay? Yours will be a different color. It will look exactly
Pigeons, not swans.
That's not encouraging. Ignore that. So
Eagles, not eagles.
Okay, come on. And so there were... You're normally so on it. That's such a shame. There's
narrows.
Wait, so
purpose.
But
call.
if you think about the early disciples, right?
Yep.
The first disciples, almost all of them were martyred. That to me is like the definition of running out of doors. I've run out of option. The last door I can go through now is be martyred. And yet, who do we remember and celebrate and go, wow, they're inspiring? So if you want to actually live that life, you've got to be okay with closing a lot of doors, reducing your options, reducing them. It's like burning the ships when you land. I'm not going back. It's not an option. And sort of, I guess, the flip side of that is you've got to do away with what-if thoughts. Any thought that goes, what if, will only lead to anxiety. It's not encouraging. We got to go, God, this is what is. It's not perfect, but you're in it, and I'm excited. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Amazing. I want the band to go ahead and come on up. But Tess, Would you want to add anything or any kind of narrative that you really had to just say, I'm going to contend with this? It's not going to steal the purpose that God has for me, the people God's assigned me to reach.
Yeah, I feel like I made so many mistakes, usually in relationships way back when. And I think for those who are single or just starting out relationships, probably the most important thing someone once told us was run as fast as you can for Jesus. Look to him, run to him. And if you see anybody else to your left or your right, they're a good suitor because they're also following him. They're running as fast as you are. So yeah, I think that would be my little bit.
Can I say as well for the guys, you might think, and this is because all pop music and romantic films tell you this lie, that the end goal is to get the girl, that is like the absolute pinnacle of adventure. And the girls are going to be a bit like, if you think that. Because the reality is girls want to be swept up and taken on an adventure. And so what Tess just said about running after Jesus, he's the adventure, what he's got. Then when you come together, it's like, we have a joint purpose. Does that make sense? It's not like, now we're together, we'll sit in a house and have some kids and then go, now what? It's like, there's meant to be an adventure.
And the reality is, opening our home has just been the most beautiful thing we could have done. It's not been something that we feel we are doing for other people. We've had people live with us. Obviously, we've got our kids. All of them have different genetics. But actually, it has brought us Jesus. Like, we see him in all the people that have lived with us, all the people we cook for, our children's faces, because it's biblical, isn't it? When you take in the orphan, the widows, those that are brokenhearted, you're also taking in him. So yeah, that's...
And we're meant for community. So
Yeah.
we are, to help us get to know this church, because we're quite new, we've started a ramp community where we are. If you live anywhere near South Warrington, Northwich, sign up with
Sneaky
us. We'd
little
love to
plug.
have more friends. More friends,
Love it.
come on.
I love it.
That'd be
Thank
good.
you for that.